Week 3 of 2025 spring drills. Notre Dame football is in the books. We had an opportunity to see more than we've seen all spring. I'm Tim Priester with Drew Mentock from Irish Illustrated, John Brice of FootballScoop and Irish Illustrated. And guys, we saw about 60 plays of scrimmage, pretty controlled. We saw some 7-on-7 mixed in. I'm going to let you guys jump in right away, and we're going to kind of throw some of these things out organically. We really haven't talked about a lot of what we saw, so here we go.
Well, first and foremost, I would say Jason Onye really stood out to me today, both for his personal journey to be in this point and the fact that there wasn't a lot of good on good when it came down to Notre Dame's D-line against this offensive line because that unit is so depleted, and we'll talk more about the injury to Gerby Lambert. But Onye had a number of reps against Charles Jagasa, and Onye won a number of reps against Charles Jagasa. And in fact, one of the best reps he had, he ended up getting flagged for hands to the face, but he pushed Jagasa probably 3 to 4 yards into the pocket, completely collapsed the pocket. Tabron Benny Powell, another guy who stood out on defense, Eli Raridan flashed on offense, and we'll all get to the quarterbacks in a moment. But those were early superlatives, I thought, for me. Drew, I know you have some impact or some thoughts on it as well, and TP, I'm very eager to hear yours.
Yeah, I agree with Anya. I mean, there was a point where they're doing 7-on-7 and right in front of us, and then off to the side they're doing, or at the other end of the field, they're doing one-on-one drills with the linemen and defensive linemen, and Anya kept flashing. Like, I wasn't even intentionally watching it at times, and you just saw him. And I think there was one rep that he won against Jagasa, but he still knocked him back to the point where he might have been able to get a hand on the quarterback if that were live. So he was impressive whether you were trying to watch him or not, and I was watching the offense most of the day.
Yeah, Onye was part of the number one defensive line, and I think you have to take all that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. Did we see Donovan Heinisch?
I don't think we
sure
saw
that we did. So, I mean, obviously, but the four that took most of the reps on the D-line, the number one reps were Junior Tui Alamaka and Josh Bynum at defensive end, and then Rubio and Onye in the middle. And Onye was absolutely very impressive. I saw one point where he somehow got matched up against Kevin Ballman and just knocked him backwards. So he looks really strong. Now, are they limiting reps for Jared Dawson? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell that, but I would think that he would be the guy who would be in the starting lineup. But what was difficult, I think we all kind of had the same thought, Kay. It's very difficult to judge the quarterbacks when you have a number one offensive line of early entry freshmen, Maddie Augustine, and you had Jagusah in there. You had Otting at center. You had Sullivan Absher at left guard. I mean, clearly Jagusah and Absher are front runners, and then you had Styles Prescott at left tackle. So many of the 60 snaps that we saw during the scrimmage were a jailbreak for the defensive front. But jumping into the quarterbacks, I'm going to let you guys. I'm going to throw it back to you, JB, before I throw out my opinions.
Okay. For me, I thought that Steve Angeli really shined early on in 7-on-7. I didn't think Steve Angeli was as sharp in the full team stuff, but I thought he anticipated throws well, especially after we'd seen CJ Carr struggle a little bit in the 7-on-7 and end up having to revert down to some check downs, whereas Angeli immediately came in and was able to hit it over the linebackers in front of the secondary and move the ball in the middle of the field, did some nice things there. Kenny Minchie, I thought, was having a really effective day until he had just a terrible back foot interception to the wide side of the field. And Isaiah Hughes, a seldom seen senior walk-on player, made the pick, and honestly, had it been a Christian Gray or one of those guys, it would have been a pick six. It was just poor. But Minchie also had a great decision down near the end zone where there was an absolute bum rush up the middle, pocket completely. You can't say it collapsed. It never formed. And Minchie had the wherewithal to throw towards the left pylon and initially drew, I think, a DPI penalty. I think they ended up waving it off, ruling the ball uncatchable. But it wouldn't have been an outright grounding penalty, and it could have been Kenny Minchie fearing for his life. And so we saw a little bit from all three, I would say. Just had this conversation with Pete Sampson walking over here to the statue. From a totality standpoint, probably CJ Carr. He got going a little bit and did some better things, I thought, in the full 11-on-11 team stuff, but nobody was sensational today, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's really interesting to evaluate with the offensive line, as you mentioned, the jailbreak. I think that's really kind of diminishes Angeli's effectiveness, because when they're running for their life, it's a lot easier for Minchie and Carr to kind of make plays and stand out in that. And then I agree, in 7-on-7, Angeli looked good. I think his anticipation, he was throwing before the guys were open and finding the right spots. That's something I think Carr specifically struggled with. There were times he dumped it off when if he had waited half a second, he would have had, say, Jaden Greathouse open down the field. But I agree, Carr really stepped up and kind of made plays. There were even some times where earlier on where there wasn't much open, and he kind of just threaded a 5-yard pass to get it open to like K Smith or somebody like that. That he just makes plays that I think that kind of maybe won him the day. But you're right, there were some good things and bad things from everybody.
I think we all saw it pretty similarly. Outside of the interception by Minchie, I thought he was really good. He had the pass to Eli Raridan, where Raridan weaved his way through traffic for I don't know.
It was a 40-yard gain.
It was a 40-yard gain. It was a beautiful play. I thought Minchie was looking good at that point. I think it's pretty obvious that with Minchie, they want to do some more design things running the football. He did score on a short yardage run. And he does show great quickness. So, again, I'm not going to compare him to Riley Leonard because Leonard has the size advantage and can run by people and run people over. But I thought Minchie was very elusive. C.J. Carr seemed a little bit impatient at times and checked down earlier than he needed to. You're right. Most of what Angeli did positively was in 7-on-7, but I thought you could tell that he was the veteran quarterback out there. And then C.J. Carr, if he does complete a long pass against one of those jailbreaks. He was under great pressure, kind of backpedaling a little bit and threw a strike in the end zone to Elijah Burris. I'm not sure if that hadn't happened, we would have viewed Carr's day the way that we did. But look, anybody that was expecting the job to be won today, or for us to come out of here saying that, okay, that's clearly the number one, it didn't happen. I'm not sure of anything. Yeah, I would imagine if one really, really stood out over the others, but that wasn't the case.
No, it was not the case, and we should note for basically the Stableford scoring system to borrow from golf, the Notre Dame defense won the day 25-23. Notre Dame defense was ahead 25-15 until Carr hit that 28-yard.
Yeah.
28 to 30-yard TD strike to finish out the day's festivities. And then we alluded to this earlier, but we should go ahead and address the Gerby Lambert injury situation. And Tom Zwiller and Drew Mentock had been all over that on our message board. But Gerby Lambert having labrum surgery already done. Marcus Freeman saying that he should be back in time for fall camp. So that's he's got about 4 months of recovery time, because I think he suffered that injury roughly a week ago, and the procedure was already done earlier this past week. But again, that's a guy that I said point blank midweek on the podcast I was really excited to see today. We didn't get to see him, and this was a camp that Gerby Lambert really needed. So just an unfortunate setback for a supremely talented prospect.
Yeah, let me jump in here, Drew, and do a little bit more bookkeeping. In addition to Lambert, I think we all saw Jeremiah Love grab for his hamstring. Then he's flat on the ground, sitting down, and walked off very gingerly. I think we've seen the last of Jeremiah Love for the spring.
Correct.
I can't imagine that they would do anything with him with the Blue Gold game next week. By the way, the Blue Gold game, Marcus Freeman said there will not be a draft. They just don't have enough healthy bodies as they transition, with part of the freshman class coming in, and then the injuries, just being more careful, the longer season, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be offense and defense in Notre Dame Stadium on April 12th. At one point, Charles Jaguso went down. They were in goal line. He went down with a right ankle injury. The training staff was looking at him, but when the practice session ended, he was back on the field at right guard. We didn't see Emil Wagner was dressed, but he did not participate. I don't think he's really done anything this spring. We saw him limping the other day, so there's no reason to rush him out there. We mentioned Heinisch. We didn't see him. Marcus Freeman confirmed that Devontae Smith had an adductor. I don't know if it was an abductor or an adductor injury, one of the two.
Sprain, strain, something
right.
along those lines.
So he sat out as well. Drew, what else do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think Love, I saw him walking around at the end of practice. He was still talking to teammates. Marcus Freeman said very clearly he doesn't think it's anything serious, but I think out of an abundance of caution, there's no reason to have anything aggravating going in. Earlier in the practice, before they kind of broke into scrimmaging, he was still working out with the wide receivers primarily, really working on his technique, kind of just going through drills as a wide receiver and getting as much work as possible. At one point, they blew the horn to end the drill, and he's like got to the front and ran an extra route. So he seems really committed to expanding his game there, and we've seen that throughout much of the spring.
Some other guys, some young guys that stood out. Tay Johnson was getting some one reps with the Don Schuler. Marcus Freeman spoke highly of him. It sounds like he's making a move. The other safeties worked in there. Luke Telich got 1 reps. I thought Kennedy Urlacher made some plays like he generally does. Cree Thomas, we've been speaking about him all spring. He had a deep ball thrown against him. I believe Jerome Bettis Jr. was the receiver. Bettis was claiming interference. They didn't call it. It was an incomplete pass. So Cree Thomas continues to. Now we finally saw some really good things with him, and we've heard some good things. And Carson Hobbs was getting some reps at nickel, number 1 reps, and Hobbs impressed us the other day by his brashness, talking about how fast he is. But it looks like he's definitely in the mix there as well.
Yeah, confidence, you could see it from Carson Hobbs today. I thought Tabron Benny Powell, another guy that flashed at times for me in the secondary. And then I saw Madden Faramo fill the gap a couple of times. He almost made a tackle for loss on Jabron Payne in the backfield, and Jabron Payne had a left cut read. Madden was coming from the right side of the line of scrimmage, and he just missed his shoestring, and that ended up only going for about a 1-yard run anyway. So just, again, that linebacker core, Marcus Freeman talking today, sometimes you need more than 11 players, or you have more than 11 players, and you play those guys. A lot of talent and depth at that linebacker position for Notre Dame.
Yeah, Jalen Snead, I want to mention him. He had a short yardage situation. We know he led the defense last year in stops on 3rd down. He did it again. I asked about Jalen Snead, and Marcus Freeman said, he made the decision. He wants to come back. He wants to be here for his final season, and he's taking it up a notch. We talked to Max Bulla the other day, and he talked about Jalen Snead being up to 235 and what a difference that makes. We have more to talk about. We're going to do that on Irish Illustrated Overtime, but this has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis.